Hey everyone, welcome to Contest Prep University. I'm Joe Klemczewski doing a feature with my friend Carlos Parry of Pinpoint Fitness Training. And Carlos, I know you are out there on the East Coast. Tell me what it's like out there with the whole COVID pandemic happening.
It's very interesting seeing the new normal going on here. I just came back in as I'm a first responder, so we have had the privilege of having the barbershops open again for us because we have grooming standards. But outside of that, it's been surreal, seeing the numbers of people drop here in and around Washington D.C. being outside, actually being able to, get accurate travel times with GPS because the roadways are so much clearer. So it's been very interesting as we try to curve, sharpen or lessen the curve of COVID here.
Right.
So it's definitely been different for us.
And you're not exactly right in Washington D.C., are you? What town are you in? Or
I'm in
suburb?
Temple Hills, but I
Okay.
can walk across the DC line here from my
Gotcha.
house.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm pretty much here.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, first of all, as a first responder, I knew you were incredibly busy, so I appreciate your time that you're carving out for us today. But I had a couple things I want to talk to you about because I think you're one of the people that really has a huge advantage when it comes to the whole rise of nutrition coaches and what I would call a hybrid. I think most personal trainers now are doing nutrition work as well. And that's been increasing for the last 15 to 20 years. And so in the general population, when somebody says, man, I need to do something, I want to feel better, lose weight, do something about my health, as a lot of people coming out of the pandemic are going to do, they're gonna seek out some options. I had a gentleman who contacted me through social media just yesterday, and he said, I've been researching coaches all over the world. I've gone through everybody's bios, and I want you to work with me if you would, please. And those are the kind of options and the choices people have. And I really like to highlight the fact that there's an educational component and all of the training and so forth that people can receive. And that's one of the ways that we met. You've done all kinds of great work through the National Academy of Metabolic Science, in your nutrition coaching training. You've done some Apex nutrition coach training as well. So I know you're completely committed to having the best standards of practice and really doing the right thing for your clients. But you have a different advantage that I think can often mean more. You've transformed your own life, your own health in quite a dramatic way. So I'd love for you to share that a little bit with the audience.
Oh wow, thank you for that introduction. Yes. So unlike a lot of coaches or trainers that I know, I grew up as an obese child. So throughout my childhood up until about, 2006, age 23, I was severely overweight. And, I didn't really have many tools at my disposal before I was aware of what I could do growing up. And, it was never something that I really dealt with too much, except for, I was never teased by my peers, but always by my big brother was my teaser. So outside of that, I was very confident and comfortable because I was very athletic. I always excelled in sports. So until I got to that point where, enough was enough, it wasn't something that really bothered me too much. When I turned 23, I'd gotten out of college. I went to school for athletic training up at Cal U of PA. And I finally said, enough is enough. So through just changing my eating habits, I was able to lose 80 pounds that year.
Wow.
And I maybe, I might have jogged a few times. But other than that, just changing my eating habits. And at that time, I was commuting 90 miles a day, round trip to work. I was working in a physical therapy clinic during the day, and then I would leave there and go to a high school and work in the evening. So my schedule was very tight. During that time frame, I actually ate out every single day. So it was one of those things where I learned that just subconsciously, you don't have to demonize foods. But it lended me an insight into being able to help people who are very busy During that time, I was actually doing my master's degree online. So not only was I working, but I was also taking online classes in which I finished my master's degree in a year and a half because I got in a motorcycle accident a month into my weight loss. So, um, when people say that things get thrust upon you, and it's how you respond when the adversity comes. I was 2 months into my weight loss journey. I get in a motorcycle accident, and I was unconscious for 15 minutes. So, luckily for me, all of my limbs still work. I have some scars and just a little bit of loss of range of motion, but it was during that time that I figured out that I could give in or continue doing what I was doing, although I was on bed rest. So my story is very extensive. At that time, I lost about 80 pounds. Fast forward to 2010, I go through the police academy. Noticed I had a small nodule in my arm. Told my instructors. They said, just stick with it so that you don't have to go through this again. As soon as you get out, get checked. So during my time, about 2007, I had a small cyst in my leg that was removed, no problem. Went back to my dermatologist, and he told me if it gets bigger or starts to hurt, come back, he'll remove it. So by June of 2012, it doubled in size. I wasn't having any pain or anything. And I went back. So on the surface, it looked about this big. When it was actually taken out, it was the size of a chicken breast. And I looked at it because he allowed me to stay awake, which is pretty cool, as he cut it out of my arm. When I looked at it, I kind of had the idea that this isn't right. So about 2 weeks later, he calls me and says, as soon as he calls, I said it was cancer. He's like, yes. So at that point, I had a choice to make. I could move forward with what I know and follow my treatment protocol, whatever that may be, or I could, wallow and allow this to take me over. So he was the team physician at the hospital I worked at, and his son survived leukemia. So I went through his doctors. During that time, I found out I had iron deficiency. So I used to be at work and I'd be wide awake, and suddenly I'm just totally crashing. So I had an iron transfusion. I then went on to have a second surgery, and that was in August of 2012. So this year is coming up on 8 years cancer-free. So, that's the second part of my journey in which, there was a transition because after the surgery, I gained back about 40 pounds. So, during that time frame, I wasn't able to exercise or anything. So I had to go right back into what I knew. And getting back into my dieting. 4 months later, I lost that weight, and just got back into being myself. Fast forward 2016, decided I wanted to, get into physique sports and be a bodybuilder. That was a great season. I had a great coach. I did very well. And from there, along with all of the training I've had in, athletic training, rehabilitation, strength and conditioning, and nutrition, I decided that I wanted to myself become a physique coach. I had dealt with general population clients, but it definitely sparked a deeper interest into bodybuilding, which was something I never imagined I'd do with my history as a child being obese, and even up through most of my adult years. So, I feel like I can meet people where they are because of the vast experiences I've had and kind of help them through it.
Man, I just have to say you have a well-rounded doesn't even cover it. You have the trifecta. You are the triple threat of health and fitness professionals in that you got a bachelor's degree in athletic training. You're a licensed athletic trainer. Then you went on to get a master's degree in exercise science. Then you're working on your own health. You've had to recover from cancer. You've lost 80 pounds and then had the challenge to come back and have to lose some of that again. And now you're actually in the sport as well at a higher level as a competitor and a coach. And again, you just, every single one of those attributes, every single one of those experiences and background components could make a great fitness professional, but you have them all wrapped up in a pretty early life. I mean, You're a young guy just starting out on a career that you're already helping people. I mean, I know I see through your social media, and I talk to you all the time, that Pinpoint is really helping a lot of people. And one of the things that I love about what you do, all of those things in your background coming down into one laser focused point, you always tell me, I love to meet people where they are. I don't care what their background is. I don't care, how far away from their goals they are, how advanced they are, wherever that person is. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we can move forward together. And I think that's got to help a lot of people with their trust and their rapport with you. Just the fact that they know you've been through so much personally. You don't just have the background and the professionalism and the skills to do it, but this is a guy who has been maybe in places darker than I'll ever go. If anybody can help me, it's got to be Carlos Parry.
Absolutely. And, it's not easy, but I believe, I'm a firm believer in we have choices. And I could very well, during those dark moments, just given up. But one thing that that was in my back pocket was the fact that I'm a father. So I want to be here, for my kids. And like you said, I'm still a young guy. I had a lot of life to live. So, receiving that news at age 27 was like, whoa. I'm sorry, age 29. It's like, wow, life changed overnight. But again, I had a choice to make. And, that's one of those, I guess, one of my traits is once I set my mind on something, I am going to do it because I will not lie to myself. And I'm not going to let myself down. So it has been something that has helped me with a lot of people, because I believe people have reasons, not excuses. Because if you cannot walk a mile in a person's shoes, you cannot tell them they're giving you excuses. We all have reasons for what we do. They may not make sense to other people, but there's always a reason why a person decides to act or not. And we have to meet those people where they are, and sometimes just give them solutions or different ways or perspectives on how they may be able to improve their situation, because we have priorities, and those things should never fall by the wayside. But we should also be able to take care of your health, and put that first, because then you can function better within the things that you have to do day in and day out.
Yeah, and I've been focused a lot recently about values-based health and getting people to understand the intrinsic motivation, the intrinsic values that really have to be there. We see a lot of weight loss recidivism. In our culture today, still 95% of people who lose weight will gain it back within a couple of years. And I have to say, somebody who was facing that diagnosis of cancer, had you been at your worst health level, you had your youth in tow. I mean, that was definitely an advantage. But had you not turned the corner and been working on improving your health, your blood lipid panel, everything had to be working better, your immune system, imagine how worse your outcome could have been with that cancer diagnosis, maybe even in finding it in time, because it's kind of rare, but you had a superficial limb tumor that indicated that initial diagnosis. So I really think you were just incredibly fortunate that you made those decisions to improve your health, when you did.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I really try to get my clients to do. One of my main questions is, have you recently had a physical and blood panels? Because sometimes people just have a lot of things going on internally that affect why they cannot, or they don't see the progress that they want to see. And it's so much deeper sometimes than just calories in and calories out, based on how the body is functioning internally. And for me, like you said, those blood panels were everything. I found out that I had an iron deficiency and needed an iron transfusion, which we know lends to a lot of different things, even just, transport of oxygen in the blood. So indeed, the health aspect of it, and really paying attention to the little things, and making that choice that my health is always going to be a priority. Like you said, my immune system, being able to function a lot better, just a lot of different things that oftentimes we don't necessarily think about. They're just kind of background issues. So yes, it was, I say, just a very, very, how can I say, it was a big choice, just all the way around, and it's something I continue to do.
You know, statistically in our country, 75% of all death is related to poor lifestyle decisions, to just bad health in general. And a lot of people don't understand what that stat really indicates. And in your case, let's say at 27, 29 years old, you have this diagnosis of cancer, you ended up recovering and you're 8 years cancer free. But what if you were in poor health, maybe didn't catch the diagnosis in time, and now you would be a statistic of a guy who just didn't catch it in time and died. And there are a lot of people, you know, I can say like my father who died of heart disease at 65 years old. You know, what if he had taken care of himself and he would have died of natural causes when he was 85? I think of the you know, the place, I think it's in Greece, it's either Greece or Italy, where there's a village that has the healthiest and most vibrant population. I mean, tons and tons of people in this community, because of their lifestyle, live to be over 100 years old. And you just don't see the disease. You don't see the heart disease. You don't see the cancer, stroke, that kind of thing. And I just wonder, you and I, you know, we both get into this kind of industry typically for one reason. We just love health. We love helping people get healthy. I had my own, you know, transition youthfully into, you know, becoming healthier. I was a chubby, overweight little kid, picked last in gym all the time, you know, and a friend of mine in the 5th grade kind of pulled me aside, and I was at a new school and said, hey, would you like to play kickball at recess? And then he said, would you come out, you know, on the basketball team and the baseball team and the football team? So this lifelong friend that I had, who ended up being my best man later on at our wedding, wow. You know, he literally took an interest in me and made me start realizing that health could be fun. It could be a better way of living. And I obviously had some interest to even want to pursue that, because in my family, it just wasn't there. That wasn't a value that we had. And so, I mean, now look, it's my entire career. It's your entire career. And wouldn't it be great if, instead of having to rescue people like you do as a first responder, and Andrew Coase of Coase Fitness out in Idaho talked about the same thing when I interviewed him. You know, he's a first responder as well in the fire department services. And he said, I know what it's like to have to save people and rescue people, and sometimes you're too late. That's why he said, as a nutrition coach and fitness professional, I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to save people before they're ever in those you know, dark moments and potentially dying. So you know, I mean, maybe this generation, maybe this rise of nutrition coaches and fitness professionals really taking the industry by force is going to have an impact, and we can start stemming that tide. Because my entire career, I have seen the obesity numbers just continue to climb. Every time they hit a new milestone, everybody says, oh, it'll get better, it'll get better. It just keeps going up, keeps going up, keeps going up. I have to think, and maybe it's me being hopeful, you know, for you know, the 4th decade in a row in error, that it's going to happen. I really think that at some point we're just going to have a society that values health a little bit more, and starts taking care of themselves. But as you work with people in the DC area personally, a lot of them in person, a lot of them online, do you see any trends in either direction? Do you think we're making an improvement, or is society itself just getting too complacent and too sedentary?
That is a great question. Comparatively, I believe, especially with what's going on now, people are really starting to pay more attention to a lot of things. And with the people I work with in person, it is definitely a huge change. And what I'm starting to see are people are kind of getting out of their own way in terms of thinking they have that solution, or just reaching out for more help to learn more. And I believe that, as you said, you know, coaches of this generation are becoming more educational. It's not a do as I say type of thing. One thing that I attempt to do as much as possible is explain everything to my clients and why I'm telling you something or asking you to do something, so that they understand what's going on, and it's a learning process. You made a great point before that I didn't touch on, about the 95% rate of gaining your weight back after weight loss. And that's because of teaching sustainable habits. But I do see a shift coming, because the days of, you know, the rigidity that is very hard to follow, are starting to just not be such commonplace. But I am seeing a shift in the level of attention people are paying to their health, because now, fortunately, COVID has put a spotlight on, people that are pre-diabetic. They're now paying more attention to those numbers where the doctor said, this is just a little high. Now it's becoming important. It's like, hey, you know what? I need to take care of this. Before, because it's not necessarily something that hurts them right now. And because they're such chronic things, as you say, heart disease, like that doesn't come on overnight. It's a chronic condition. It gets worse. People are really starting to pay more attention and have more screening done. I think just amongst people I talk to, because I always discuss, blood work with different people and stuff like that. I have a lot of people like, hey, I've scheduled that blood work to get done so I can, see what's going on under the hood. So here in Washington, D.C., I am seeing a major shift. Even kind of before the COVID pandemic has struck, but now even more so. People are very, very, very in tune with their health, and in whatever way possible for them. If it's just a person that says, you know what, maybe I do need a physical, or maybe I should go out and walk more because I find myself sitting down. I am seeing a shift across the board in people's activity levels coming up, or just being more aware or asking more questions about health and fitness and nutrition. Here in this area.
That, I really do think that intuitive eating, which is becoming more popular even as a phrase or even a concept, is right in the heart of what I'm discussing in terms of values-based health. And I shared a post on social media last week that I think was probably the most shared post I've ever, written. And it really was about what you said in terms of it's just not an overnight thing. You don't get that diagnosis overnight. It's all of those lifestyle choices, all of those habits, years and years and years of decision making is what makes you who you are. And you just can't undo some of that damage. And if I could tell people, just to take that moderate approach, what's the one change you could make today or this week to just start improving? Because it's super easy, statistically to lose 10 or 20 pounds or even 50. I've had clients, rush in, lose 60, 80 pounds in 6 months, and then they just gain it right back. And if your mindset is, this is just a job, it's a task. It's like, okay, I finally got the time. I'm gonna buy some tennis shoes. I'm gonna run. I'm gonna diet, and they just go all in, warrior, Spartan dieting, and then it's over. It's cliche to even use the phrase lifestyle change and so forth, but I think the reason it's difficult is you can't make every single change at once. And when we get that impetus to become healthier, to lose weight, to shape up, that's what we really want to do. We focus on it, which is great, but it's not with that long-term sustainability in mind. And it's not necessarily something that people enjoy. They feel like they have to do it. They're being forced to do it to feel better, look better, improve their health. But that doesn't mean it's values-based. That doesn't mean there's been a change inside that says, I want to be a new person. And I'd love to hear, when you made that change, when you lost 80 pounds, something in your brain had to click. Something had to say, this is just not who I'm going to be. This is not the life I want to live. And I would love to hear that, and for our audience to know exactly what kind of mental shift that takes.
Wow, Dr. Joe. This is something I talk to my clients about throughout their journey. And as you said, it's something I learned, because oftentimes we set a goal. So I had no specific goal in mind. And when I did it, it was intuitive eating, actually. There was no specific goal, but I realized that just over time, you can lose all of the weight you want, but if you don't change the way you think about yourself, even when you get to that goal weight and you step on that scale, and let's say 150 pounds is my goal, if I didn't change mentally and improve the way I felt about myself, at that point, you're still in the same place. You didn't grow from it. So with that, you really have to just have a mental shift, and that decision to not go back to where you were. You have to be able to accept the success. Sometimes people are embarrassed when people start telling them they look better. I witnessed this before. So you go through a range of emotions. You know, you have to grow away from the crowd of people that tell you, oh, you're getting too small. I'll never forget someone that's really near and dear to me after I lost my first 10 pounds told me to stop. All right, that's enough, because you're going to get so small that, you know, you're going to look funny. And I've seen that derail people. So mentally, you have to get over those hurdles, those obstacles, to understand that sometimes people aren't being malicious, and to them it's a joke, but that can really derail a person. So mentally, you have to go through a total transformation. And as I tell one of my clients, not continue to look over your shoulder at the person you used to be. Because if your eyes are always looking backwards, there's more chance that you'll miss out on what's in front of you. So, you know, I don't forget where I come from, but, you know, I'm not one of those people that's always posting flashback pictures and things like that. Like I will never forget that part of me, but I am not that person anymore because of choices. You know, and they were sustainable habits. And I didn't revert back to the habits I had beforehand. Like you said, you know, you'll see people lose 50, 60, 70, 80 pounds. And due to what I believe sometimes a lack of education on, okay, what happens after the diet, as you alluded to, because they looked at it as a task. And yes, they hashtag lifestyle change and everything says I'm into this lifestyle. But during that process, due to maybe some rigidity, they didn't realize that they could have some of the foods that, you know, they had before. But moderation is everything. And then once they hit that goal, I only gained 5 pounds. It's cool. I only gained 10 pounds. And then eventually those pants don't fit anymore and they step on the scale and it's 25 pounds back. So you really have to shift your internal mindset to the person you have become. And you have to be able to accept your success and not get into that place of this is never enough, you know, and just have some type of a body dysmorphia issue. Improvement is great, but you shouldn't be beating yourself up about it or punishing yourself. Once you get to where you want it to be, if there's more you want to do, go ahead. But as you said, the mental aspect of this is probably tougher than the physical, you know, of exercise and eating. It's who do you feel you are on the inside? Did you improve your thoughts about yourself? And can you handle just the commentary you're going to get from different people? It's so crazy to me, Dr. Joe. Like I said, for 23 years, I was a big guy. I was 244 pounds in college. Mm. People I grew up with forgot that I was overweight. It is so crazy. People will talk to me as if, you know, that I'm near and dear to, sometimes have to catch themselves like, wait, you did grow up overweight, because they forget who you are. But that person never forgets who they are sometimes. And sometimes they're still the same person. They're still the heavier person in their mind, although the outside looks good. And when they look in the mirror, they only see the heavier person. They don't see the new person. So even, you know, and we see this with competitors. Usually like a week out, people are like, man, I look terrible. And then in the off season, when they're 35 pounds up, they're like, man, I wish I could get back to that. You know, they don't appreciate what's in front of them because the mental shift has to change. So it is a huge aspect of it, of accepting who you've become and not worrying about who you used to be.
You know, everything you have said in this podcast, I think, are the most important things anybody could hear who wants to live that life, who wants to start that journey and maintain what you have to lose 80 pounds, keep it off. But it's all encapsulated in the phrase that you just finished with, which is, that's who I was, this is who I am now. And, you know, even for myself, when I grew up unhealthy and then decided, okay, I'm going to be this massive beast of a bodybuilder, you know, my entire career from physical medicine into nutrition and health sciences is going to be, you know, the greatest career I could ever imagine. And then all of a sudden, one day I retired from professional bodybuilding and I woke up and I said, wow, this is the first time in 20 years I really don't have a goal. And I had not, you know, in a couple decades of that, especially as you're forming a career and getting into family life and all of that, it was really an identity check for me. And I had to decide at almost 40 years old, who did I want to be? Who did I want to be physically? You know, it's not, you know, diet for a contest and then have an off season and diet and do this and do that. And I spent about a decade, about 5 pounds near my contest weight, because I decided, okay, I could be kind of, the big, thick powerlifter guy. I could do this, I could do that. But I really, at that point, wanted to just stay healthy and work on cardiovascular conditioning. And it's a decision you have to make, but you really do have to bring those values with you. And that's what I keep coming back to as a center. It's a value. Once you lose weight, I don't care if you've never enjoyed physical fitness or you've never necessarily been that healthy. If that is your goal, it's not an action. It is a change. It is somebody you become, and you got to bring some of those habits with you. You have to care about your weight. You have to care about what that blood chem says, at your doctor's office. You have to continue to live those values, or you'll just revert back to who you were. And that will just be an indication that it really never was a change you were ready to make.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you said something very profound there. And it's something that I've started thinking about now. When I finally decide to say I don't want to compete in physique sports, I can still use my foundations from physique sports, from my background to be whatever image or, picture of my health I want to be. That's amazing. You said 5 pounds from your bodybuilding weight. Wow. For 10 years. Mm-hmm. So, that took some, that took a lot. But as you said, I understand that it's okay if I decide I don't want to bodybuild, that I can still have the body if I wanted to. But am I going to drive myself crazy mentally to do it? Absolutely not. So it is something I actively think about. And as you alluded to, these are the things that a lot of coaches, the discussion we should be having with clients is, once this diet is over, or this transition, your recomp, weight loss, whatever it is, you have to have a plan in place for who you are going to be, and how you're going to function. If you're going to move into intuitive eating, start, just tell that, educate them as they're doing it. Start paying attention to what you see. I'm not a big eyeball person, but I do practice it at times. When I'm measuring my food, I'll put it on first, say, okay, that's about this much. And I'm really good at it. So, helping people plan for what's after the coaching is over is one of my big things. And I am so delighted that clients that I've dealt with that may have lost 100, 150 pounds, yeah, they may have put some back on, but the foundation is still there. They haven't gained it all back. They haven't relapsed. And that's one of my things, is being able to function without me. When I'm not around, can you function? That's in, just learning more about training. For a person that's never stepped in a gym, I had a client that Dr. Joe was amazing, had never worked out. She ended up losing 60 pounds and eventually said she wanted to compete. She had never worked out before anything. And the first 14 months were all home workouts. So, to this day, she is still a total transformation away from that person I met in November of 2016. And that's mentally and physically. So when I look at that, I feel like I've done my job when I've prepared a person to hit their goal, or maybe if something happens, they still know how to carry on afterwards. And, I'm blessed to still receive those messages from past or former clients that, hey, although, I may not be in the gym or just even actively a client, this is still happening for me. And thank you so much. So like you said, that preparation for later, it happens to us too. So we really have to make that choice on who we are going to be after. After the curtains close on this goal, what are we setting ourselves up for, and who are we going to be? And our actions determine that.
Well said, man. Well said. Well, we're going to have all of your information in the show notes, but what is the easiest way for people to contact you right now if they're just listening and want to jot it down?
It would be by way of email. My email is cparry, PARRY, ATC@gmail.com. They can also look me up on Instagram. That's a good platform as well, at Pinpoint_Fitness_Training.
All right, man. We'll get that all in the notes. And thank you so much, Carlos, for being here. You're an inspiration to me. I love working with coaches who are going to take our industry into the future. And you're one of the guys that just puts a huge smile on my face because I know it's going to happen. I know great things are going to happen over the next generation because of professionals like you. So thank you so much. And we will see you guys next time in Contest Prep University.